I got married secretly. Now I regret it, and I'm desperate to go back with my husband. I'm a 25-year-old woman and my boyfriend is 26. Boyfriend is 26, we started dating when I was 18 and he was 19, we were together for 2 years before we decided to move in together when he finished college. We've been living together ever since and our relationship is fantastic. We're not only a couple, but we're also best friends and we share a deep romantic connection. I am crazy about him and hope to marry him one day and be the mother of his children as well. Be the mother of his children. Although I had hoped we would be married by now, I respect his decision to find his before making such a significant commitment. Now, here's the problem. Recently, a new colleague joined our company and I was responsible for bringing him on board and providing him with basic training. His name is Jay and he's a former professional athlete in great shape. The twist is that Jay is married and he and his wife have an open marriage. They have a child together that was conceived while she was married to another man and she still has a physical relationship with her ex and others. During one of our conversations, Jay shared all of this with me. I initially found it to be a rather unusual and unconventional situation, especially when the subject came up. Jay asked me for my thoughts on open relationships, and I made it clear that I was completely against them. I made it clear that I was completely against the idea and that I would never want to share my husband or be with another man. Our discussion on this subject ended with Jay suggesting that if you ever wanted to try it, let me know. I was surprised by his comment, but I laughed it off and changed the subject. As the weeks went by and Jay and I grew closer in our working relationship, I have to admit that I developed a strong physical attraction to him. We've started flirting with each other, and I'm getting worried because I can see where this is going. But I haven't discussed this with my boyfriend because I know he would end our relationship immediately. It's not that he's possessive, but he firmly believes in the concept of one woman and one man in a relationship. Flirting with Jay would be a huge violation of his trust, so I've decided to take a chance and talk to my boyfriend about. For those who have experience with this, I have a few questions. 1. How did you initiate the conversation? 2. What did you say? 3. What happened? Did your relationship with your partner get better or worse after you opened it up? I talked to my boyfriend about it, but he immediately rejected the idea. I didn't directly ask for an open relationship, instead I mentioned Jay. Boyfriend that Jay was a new colleague and that my coworkers had mentioned that his wife was in an open marriage and that she was still in a physical. My friend's immediate reaction was, "That's just disgusting," he said. He went on to say that Jay must be stupid because no man would accept his partner being intimate with another man. I just laughed, agreed with him, and changed the subject. It seems that my desire to be physically intimate with Jay will not be fulfilled, at least not in the near future. Meanwhile, I plan to increase our activities at home to satisfy this burning longing within me. Update. Here with an update, but it's about a different but related issue. I've made a terrible mistake, one that has cost me my relationship with my boyfriend and any hope of marrying him and having children together. If you remember from my last update, I mentioned that my boyfriend had rejected the idea of an open relationship and I decided not to pursue it. Well, a week later my boyfriend went to Chicago for a trade show and I was home alone from Tuesday to Thursday that week. On Tuesday morning of that week, Jay and I flirted heavily at the office and during our lunch break. We went to his apartment and were intimate, which I now deeply regret and can't believe how stupid and selfish I was. We repeated the same thing on Thursday, and while the physical aspect was satisfying, it didn't compare to what I have with my boyfriend Jay. Jay has an attractive physique, but he couldn't match the emotional connection I have with my boyfriend. After our meeting on Thursday, I had planned to make it our last, but I didn't want to hurt Jay's feelings, so I didn't say anything that day. On another note, I was shocked by the way Jay and his wife live. Their apartment is crammed with exercise equipment and it's in disarray with clothes scattered everywhere and things out of place. My boyfriend and I are pretty neat, so this really bothered me and took away from the experience a bit. Sorry for going off topic, but I needed to get this off my chest. It was really bothering me to move on to Thursday. My relationship with my boyfriend and my hopes for a happy life took an abrupt turn when I got home. Was already there and I could sense that something was wrong. He was standing by the door, wearing his coat and holding his car keys. I was excited to see him and tried to kiss and hug him, but he held me at arm's length with his hand. He told me that he had been contacted on social media by Jay's wife, who had asked if he would like to meet. Would like to meet and possibly go out on a date. Now that Jay and I were physically involved, she had a phone call and she spilled all the details about my relationship with Jay. Apparently she and Jay enjoy being with other couples, which is the... Hearing this news left me breathless and I felt like I was going to faint, so I had to sit down. I immediately started to explain and apologize, but he just said be quiet. Then he handed me a document, an eviction notice that he had prepared himself using an online template and intended to file legally. He informed me that I had 30 days to move out before he would start legal proceedings. Mentioned that he would be staying with his parents and instructed me not to contact him. Tears and made another attempt to reach him, but he kept his distance and then rushed out the door, down the parking lot, and I tried to catch up with him, but he was too fast for the next 3 hours. I tried to contact him but he didn't respond. I then called his mother to ask if he was with her. She confirmed that he was but said he couldn't talk. When I asked if I could come over, she firmly refused, stating that I was no longer welcome. Her words tore me apart and I tried to explain that I had made a terrible mistake and would never hurt him again. But she responded with simple acknowledgments like okay, and yes, and asked if I had anything else to say when I declined her invitation. Just said take care and have a nice life before hanging up on me. I felt miserable all night and kept texting my BF. Texts to my BF, some of which seem crazy now that I look back on them. Among other things, I apologized repeatedly, professed my love for him, and emphasized that he was the only one I loved. I also sent him a text explaining that the physical relationship with Jay meant nothing, that it was just a... It might not have been the best thing to say, but it was true, I thought. Maybe boosting his ego would make him break down and reach out to me, but it didn't. The next day, I drove to his office. Although I didn't enter the building, instead I sent him a text message letting him know that I was waiting outside in the parking lot. I was waiting outside in the parking lot and I was going to stay there all day because I wanted to talk to him, but he didn't respond. Around 11 a.m. I saw him walking toward my car, and seeing his handsome face approaching brought tears to my eyes because I love this man so much. I was so hoping that he would come to my side, pull me out of the car and start hugging and kissing me, but instead We spent the next hour talking and he allowed me to express myself. Without interruption, after I poured out all my thoughts and feelings, he calmly explained that cheating was a deal breaker for him. And our relationship was effectively over. He expressed a desire to maintain a civil tone, but made it clear that he wanted no further involvement with me, despite my constant pleas for a second chance. Remained adamant. As our conversation neared its end, I inquired where I would go when I moved out. I knew that I would not be able to afford an apartment in the metropolitan area on my own. He assured me that he would provide a check for his share of our expenses for 1 month to help me get started in a new place. Despite my attempts to beg and plead, he repeatedly responded with a firm no when I ran out of things to say. When I asked if I could kiss and hug him, he agreed to a hug but refused the kiss. We hugged for a good 10 minutes before he gently pulled away, and then he returned to his office, leaving me in tears. I'm back with a new set of questions, this time someone deeply remorseful. Is there hope for my relationship? Are there steps I can take to rebuild my boyfriend's trust? I want to emphasize that this was a one-time mistake, and I'm desperate to hear from women who have faced similar situations. Especially if you manage to salvage your relationships, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to win him back. As I struggle without him, I want to express my gratitude for the responses I've received so far and any future responses to this post. Sharing this with someone has brought me tremendous relief. I'm so ashamed of my actions that I can't bring myself to discuss them with anyone I know. Having this community to share with has truly been a lifeline. Thank you from the bottom of my heart again. Update. It's been a while and many of you have asked for an update on my relationship. I'm sad to announce that my boyfriend and I have officially broken up. Despite weeks of pleading for another chance, I realized that he wasn't going to change his mind. Quitting my job and moving back to my hometown, I'm staying with my parents temporarily until I can get back on my feet. Couldn't afford to live in the city on my own, and I didn't want to work at the same company as Jay, so I decided to uproot myself and move back home. I deeply regret that he found out. Now I feel like he ruined my life. Yes, I understand that I can start over, but it's an incredibly challenging process. Finding a man might be easy, but finding an amazing man like my ex-boyfriend? My grandmother used to tell me that finding a great man is like finding a diamond in a coal mine. She emphasized that if you ever find one, you should hold on to it and cherish it forever. She told me several times that she believed my boyfriend was a diamond and that I was one of the lucky ones. Turns out she was absolutely right about my ex-boyfriend. He seems to be doing just fine without me, he's thriving at his job. And he never tried to contact me. I sent several texts over the holidays, but he never responded, so I finally gave up. I'm currently struggling with depression, but I recently started individual counseling, and it's proving to be quite helpful. I want to address something here in response to some of the negativity within this community. The idea that once a cheater, always a cheater does not apply to everyone, and it certainly does not apply to me. Can assure you that I will never cheat on a partner again, and you can take my word for it. Mentioned that many people who cheat don't usually repeat their actions, so there you have a professional perspective. For those of you who have been supportive, thank you, except for the haters. Haters, alright, that was a fun story. Now let's move on to another exciting one. Stay tuned and let's dive in. I'm a 22-year-old female and I want to get my 25-year-old boyfriend back. I accidentally cheated on him and I feel really guilty and upset that my friends told him about it. A few days ago I made a mistake in my relationship with my boyfriend of 2 years. I used to believe he was the love of my life and part of me still does. We went on dates, he bought me things, but I started to feel less important. There was a lack of spontaneity, if you know what I mean. I talked to him about it, hoping we could work things out. Then one night my friends and I went out and I was having a great time. We were dancing and a group of guys started dancing with us. I felt a little overwhelmed because I wasn't used to being so close to other guys, but I made sure none of them got too close from behind, so I thought it was okay. After the dance, some of us sat down and started talking. There was one guy I was chatting with who was cute and friendly. He asked for my number and I gave him my number. For my number and I gave him a fake one. Some guys can be persistent, so I left it at that and then moved away from him. Another guy from the group approached me and noticed that I wasn't mingling as freely as my friends, so we started talking and I should have stopped there, but I couldn't resist asking him what had happened with his ex. He explained that their relationship had become dull and routine, lacking excitement. And asked why he hadn't stayed with her. He revealed that he enjoyed the freedom of meeting other women. We talked for the rest of the night until my friends and I decided to. He gave me his phone number on the way to my friend's house. I texted him and said I was going to get an Uber and go home, but instead I went to his house. It was a nice place with his own house and a fancy car in the driveway. When I walked in, we continued talking and eventually we started kissing and ended up having sex. I cuddled with him and was about to leave, but we started kissing again, which led to another round of intimacy. I fell asleep in his bed the next morning. I hadn't planned to spend the night. My boyfriend tried calling and texting me, but I didn't answer. Some of my friends. Finally, I left his apartment and called my dad to reassure him that I was okay. When I arrived at our house, my boyfriend asked about my well-being. Confused about what to say, I simply mentioned that I had gone to a friend's house after our outing and had fallen asleep after taking a shower. After taking a shower, my emotions overwhelmed me and I began to cry. I never intended for things to unfold the way they did the night before. Waiting for me, he informed me that a friend had sent him a message claiming that I had taken an Uber home with my phone in my hand. Explained that he had checked the location and read my text messages. He confronted me and asked if I had cheated on him the night before. I assured him that I had not and would never do such a thing, but he remained silent, just standing there. And I longed for his embrace. Finally, he told me to leave before he called the authorities, so I did. It's been a few days now and I'm desperate to have him back. I've struggled to eat, sleep, and even skipped my classes, and I've distanced myself from my friends. My friends feel like they played a role in ruining my relationship, and it's disheartening that one mistake led to this. Has anyone been in a similar situation? Is there anything I can say or do to win him back or make amends? Dear Making Amends, a few days ago, I mustered up the courage to return to our apartment, hoping that there might be a chance to salvage what was left of our relationship. To my dismay, the apartment was completely empty except for my. It was like walking into a scene from a horror movie. The place was devoid of warmth, filled with emptiness and dampness, everything that held our memories together. It was as if he had erased all traces of himself from our home. Literally every possession of his was gone, the furniture, the appliances, even the laptop on my lap, a gift from him. He and the food he kept in the refrigerator were all gone. The apartment had been stripped down to its bare essentials. The only thing left in the refrigerator was a bag of pretzels I had bought for myself, which he had taken. He had taken everything he had brought with him when we first moved in together. I felt shocked and abandoned. Who could do such a thing? Did he really care that little about me that much? Left me in an empty house, it was as if he had disappeared from the face of the earth. I am completely lost and don't know what to do next. How can I even begin to make things right? Is this situation even legal? We both signed the lease, so shouldn't I have been notified if he broke it? The lease, and what about my laptop? I was the primary user and all my files were on it. I need to recover them as well. Does anyone have any advice to offer? Update: I contacted my ex on a different phone number and he informed me that he is done with our relationship and has already moved. He advised me not to look for him until he has officially terminated the lease. He has no intention of renewing it in May. He remained adamant about keeping the laptop, claiming it was legally his since he had the receipt. When I explained that I only needed it to copy my files, he mentioned that he had formatted it and erased all data, just as he had erased me from his life. So what steps should I take next? Next, you may not like me after hearing my story, but remember, you're here for a revenge story, which is what I'm doing right now. 36 years old, let's change the names a bit. My ex-wife Rebecca is now 34 years old. Rebecca and I were what you'd call college sweethearts. We navigated college and the usual challenges of young college life. We tied the knot in our early 20s, I was 25 and she was 23. Our marriage got off to a rocky start, not immediately, but situationally. I was studying medicine while she was studying accounting. Some things were fine with me, but they bothered her. I have to admit that at the time I didn't see it as a problem. Fast forward to 2016 and when she got a job as an accountant, I was happy. I was happy because it paid well and the owner of the company, James, happened to be a college buddy of mine. She started complaining about various things. She didn't like our living situation. She had problems with my behavior and lost her taste for the food she once loved. I'm a fantastic cook and she used to love my meals. Our arguments escalated to the point where she would insult me, call me worthless, and claim that she made. This alone may seem like a typical part of many relationships, as most couples have their ups and downs. But if it had stopped there, I wouldn't be sharing my story. The turning point came when I heard from our mutual friends that Rebecca and James were spending time with some of them, which I found strange. Why would she hang out with him? Why were they hanging out with our mutual friends without me knowing? I confronted both of them and they explained that it was a last-minute plan that didn't include me because I was working and out of town that day. I'm not sure, so I let it go. Then came 2017, the year my marriage fell apart. I became increasingly suspicious. For those of you in relationships, you know it's a warning sign when your intimate life suddenly disappears. Whenever I tried to discuss things, I was met with resistance. I'm not perfect. Started yelling at her, constantly demanding answers because something was missing from your closest person in life. They rarely talk to you or spend time with you, and they insist there's nothing wrong. Does that seem normal to you? This has been a fantastic year for us, with both of us paying off our student loans and reaching our financial peak. It should be. My friends and I had the idea of opening a small medical store as a side business. One of my friends was Saladin. He suggested we go to a pub to celebrate. While we were there I noticed a woman who looked exactly like Rebecca. It wasn't too alarming but it caught my attention. She was dancing with another man and the lights were dim when I took a closer look. Lo and behold, it was Rebecca and James, dancing hand in hand. I could say it didn't bother me much because they are friends and colleagues, right? I was with my colleagues and she was with hers. But of course it bothered me, so I decided to send her a text asking where she was. She replied that she was already at home and that was a big red flag, a huge red flag, almost like a communist parade. I told her to stop lying because it was clear she wasn't being truthful. She seemed to be getting paranoid. She seemed to get paranoid and texted that she was on her way home, after which she left the pub and I followed shortly on my way home. Knew I needed to have a direct conversation with her about James, so when I got home I did just that. I asked her face to face about James and her reaction was like she had seen a ghost because she clearly wasn't expecting it. That question, the way she reacted was far from what I would consider normal when asking about a friend. She mumbled and tried to play it off, but as I listened to her speak, I already had a strong suspicion that something was wrong. That night, my curiosity got the best of me and I decided to snoop through her phone. Please don't judge me. We knew each other's passwords, but she had changed hers, so I could not access it. I couldn't access it, but the next day while I was snooping I managed to get it of action, but I was desperate to find out the truth, and there it was, a multitude of texts, countless questionable pictures, degrading comments, and even her referring to him as daddy. My wife and I had made a promise to each other that we would always be transparent and open if there was anything we needed to investigate. Unfortunately, she also broke that vow by telling him how excited she felt that night at the pub I was going through. What hurt the most was that she had told me herself that if either of us ever got bored in the relationship, or needed to spice things up, we would let each other know that she would destroy everything. I went to bed and cried deeply into the night. I want you to know that I thought of a plan to get back at her secretly. Plan to secretly get back at her, but I didn't. I was overwhelmed with anger and emotion. She screamed at me and stormed out, accusing me of being abusive and insane. And insanely, that afternoon, her friends created a messenger group where they all teamed up to criticize me. Apparently told all our friends that I was abusive. When she returned home that night, she told me that she was in love with James and wanted a divorce. James and wanted a divorce. I asked her to talk about it first, but it turned into her berating me. I yelled at her and she didn't hesitate to call the police when they arrived and I was told to spend the night somewhere else. I went to see my sisters and when I came back the next morning James' car was parked there. Are you kidding me? He did it on purpose, she did it on purpose, I did it on purpose. Consulted a lawyer because we didn't have a prenup, and she had already filed a complaint against me for being abusive. Being abusive, which didn't bode well for me. She never tried to apologize or make amends, not even once. Country's laws don't consider infidelity a fault, so even so, she's entitled to half of everything I have. But her complaint could lead to a lawsuit against me. A few days later, I was lucky enough to stay at my sister's house. I tried to get in touch with Rebecca, but she didn't respond to me. Then she contacted me and suggested we get a divorce. Suggested that we get a divorce, that's it, after 12 years of relationship and 4 years of marriage. She ended it with a text message to make matters worse. I was convinced that James was taking my place the first time I saw her. After that, she served me with divorce papers, and everyone in our circle of friends believed that I was the perpetrator. They thought she had done the right thing by cheating on me. We were officially divorced in early 2014. Divorced in early 2018. She was openly dating James during our divorce because he became her life and she was. I lost my job, my house, my reputation, and some of our mutual friends. Of our mutual friends, all because of her affair and lies. Saladin played a major role in helping me with this fresh start. He secured me a job that paid a decent wage, although it was nothing like my previous job, but it was better than other alternatives as I worked hard to rebuild my life. Saladin and I became even closer friends. I found it hard to trust anyone. There was no communication between Rebecca and me and the last I heard was that she had moved in with James and they were doing well. Fast forward to the end of 2020, my life was actually improving. Despite the global pandemic that forced us to work tirelessly and with sore backs, it was filling our pockets. Our pharmacy business was succeeding and I was making good money. It was completely unexpected to learn that her hero James had cheated on her. He left her with a child that was undoubtedly his, and to make matters worse, he had been absent since the baby was born. And hadn't even acknowledged the child by signing the birth certificate. Rebecca is raising this child as a single parent. I heard she tried to date after James left, but she claims she's still not over James or me. Not over James or me, the audacity of this woman, but a part of me felt a sense of satisfaction in the aftermath. I have to admit that I really missed having her around, so the next part might make you cringe. But I sent her an email to see how she was doing. She wasn't expecting to hear from me. We exchanged emails and reconnected. Our first meeting was in 2021, after several years, when I saw her. I was shocked to see her. She looked much worse, she had gained weight, she had lost her charm, and she seemed constantly. She opened up about James and reopened the old wounds of her infidelity and lies. I suppose she apologized sincerely and admitted that she wasn't thinking clearly. When I thought clearly about what she had done to me, she claimed that James had poisoned her mind against me. Her mere appearance infuriated me and fueled my desire for revenge. It was obvious that karma had already caught up with her. With her and the hardships of life having brought her to her current state, it should have been enough, but remember the warning at the beginning. Yes, even after all she had done, I'm not blameless either. You can judge me, but that's not why I'm here. Why I'm here, I felt the urge to take revenge, and I did. I wasn't finished with her. I told her I would forgive her if she came clean to everyone and cleared my name, and she did, even if it meant losing a lot of friends. Because it was the truth, she wanted us to rekindle our relationship, essentially forcing me to raise James' child. I told her I was interested in a fresh start, but only if we took it seriously, which meant we had to start dating again and seriously consider marriage first, and only then would I consider legally adopting her child. Her child, I have to admit, the little guy was adorable and I had grown fond of him. Here's the ugly truth, I was already seeing someone else. It's safe to say I was cheating on this woman with Rebecca. She was a client of mine from another country, and we were in a long-distance relationship, so we were dating, but it wasn't exclusive. Wasn't completely exclusive, if that makes sense. Her name is Lisa. Lisa was Saladin's cousin. She was initially against my revenge plan and was happy to help me. But I managed to convince her to help me and she understood that I had to go through with it. Rebecca and I lived in different cities, so I never moved in with her, but I played it cool by claiming that I had to travel extensively for work, so I inadvertently raised Rebecca's hopes, only to later disappoint her as she had. The unfortunate part is that we were physically intimate, but we used protection. Rebecca genuinely believed she had found love again, and I encouraged her to seek therapy to work through her issues. Everyone noticed how much better and happier she seemed now that she was with me. Gratitude for her good fortune, always followed by an apology to me. Started doing things for me that she used to do when we were married and deeply in love. I reconsidered my revenge plan and began to have second thoughts about breaking her heart. The way I had imagined it, it would be terrible, the kind of trauma that stays with someone for life, but then I remembered what she had done to me when we were married, when we had made vows that she would break person, but she willingly chose to betray me. She never thought twice about breaking my heart, so why should I hesitate to think about hers? Her birthday was approaching last October, and the lockdown restrictions had eased. Someone important to me, Lisa, was in my town, so as a birthday present, I invited Rebecca to go ring shopping, and she chose. She was overjoyed and came to me that night in tears. She apologized repeatedly for hurting me the way she had. She seemed genuinely remorseful, but I had no feelings left. On Rebecca's birthday, I took her to our favorite place, the same place where we got married. For the first time, it's a beautiful place surrounded by nature. I introduced Lisa to Rebecca as my girlfriend. Rebecca turned pale and asked me what I meant. Rebecca turned pale and asked me what I meant by that. She wondered what she was to me, so I introduced Lisa to Rebecca as my. At that moment I proposed to Lisa with the same ring. Rebecca lost her composure and started to scream. I responded by asking how she could expect us to reconcile when she had destroyed everything. I made it clear that I could never date someone like her again. She kept asking if everything we had meant anything. Nothing, and my answer was a resounding no. Our last moments together were merely a form of closure. I helped her confront the pain she had caused me. Lisa held me back, worried about Rebecca's pain. I was adamant that Rebecca needed to leave, and eventually she did. She repeated her previous actions, telling everyone that I had cheated on her and making me the villain this time. Took it in stride, and everyone saw her for the deceitful person she was. She had betrayed me and made me pay a heavy price through abuse allegations, and now she expected me to raise her child from her affair as my own. The last time we communicated was in December of last year when she wrote me a letter expressing her and regretted the pain she had caused me, wished me a better life, and from what I heard, had no interest in dating me. In my case, as you can probably guess, Lisa and I ended our relationship. There were other issues between us, not just what happened. Some people say I'm worse than my ex. I loved her, and she cheated on me, causing me to lose my home, my job, my reputation, and my friends. I behaved badly to everyone. I gave her a taste of her own medicine, yes, by hurting someone else. I may have hurt her emotionally, but that's what she did to me, not me. I'm telling my revenge story, and that's what you call nuclear revenge. Thank you.